of the database. Let's see. Number 14 says, pursuant to the Constitution, registration with the CDPHE is voluntary. Once again, the gentleman from the Attorney General's office reiterated this point, that in order to receive protection from the Constitution, you don't have to register with the CDPHE. So participation in the confidential registry is optional for the patient. Number 15, the CDPHE must appoint an electronic security expert. We really feel strongly that this needs to happen to monitor the security compliance of the registry. What number are we on now? 16. All registry information shall be confidential and shall not be revealed in any report other than or any other matter prepared, released, or published, except for statistical information. Next one, law enforcement inquiries will only be by telephone or fax. Law enforcement inquiries will be responded to promptly. The next one is also important, is an incident report. Anytime there is a breach, and have this incident report available to the public so we can know exactly what the incident report was, or what the incident was and what the resolution of the incident was. Number 20, the patient shall be notified every time law enforcement or any other entity requests information about them contained in the confidential registry. Right now, if law enforcement inquires into the registry, the patient has no idea that this incident ever happened. It's important, especially if somebody's card is stolen or misused, that the patient be notified when law enforcement makes an inquiry on the database with their registry ID card. A status report, once again, for public transparency of the database. It would be important for the department to release a status report on the confidentiality of the registry and any incidents that have happened, including incidents prior to today, past incidents. Let's see. Moving on to the last page. I think that pretty much summarizes the important points of this petition. So if the board, I realize that this is a lot of rules, and I really don't expect you to adopt them all today, but I would strongly encourage you to adopt rule number 2, which says that you will not share information with any other registry. And as the testimony has showed, that it's not an imminent issue, that the Department of Revenue doesn't need this information from the Department of Health. So I think that in order to send a message to the patients that the CDPHE values the privacy and values the confidentiality of the registry and values the fact that the Department of Revenue says that they really don't need the information in the registry, to create a rule saying that you will not share information with the Department of Revenue is really of our foremost concern. And I welcome your questions.
Ms. Guido, first of all, thank you very much for coming to see us again. Just a reminder of what this is. This is whether we will consider your petition at all. We aren't able to adopt any part of it today. We're not, because it has not yet been received as a petition. You had indicated that you would hope that maybe one part would be adopted. If you meant today, that can't happen.
Okay.
Are there other comments from the board or questions from Ms. Guido? Go ahead.
I would have one. Somewhere in your communication, I read a little bit about your organization, and I don't recall. It seemed like you said you had thousands of members, and you're statewide. And could you just, in 5 sentences or less, tell me the whole history? Just a little bit about how you track membership, and how would you verify that you actually have members and that you represent the entire state of Colorado, or whatever it is you represent?
Well, I've never said that we represented the entire state of Colorado. We do represent thousands of patients. How we track that is through our email list and through the responses that we get from our members. in response to issues like this, we ask for their input on these issues, and we get responses from them, and they've helped us form these draft rules.
And I appreciate that answer. But you wouldn't be able to identify for us the names of people.
I wouldn't.
Okay.
No, I wouldn't to protect their privacy.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. And I wouldn't ask you.
I would be able to give you. I would be able to give you the names of all of our members if it didn't violate their confidentiality. I'm not sure what your question is.
Well, I'm just trying to contemplate in your database. I'm stretching here. But should I want to hack into your system, trust me, there's no worry about that. I can barely turn a computer on. But should I want to hack in, is there a way for me to get into your database to get your listserv or to, it just seems to me, I'll be clear about this, it seems to me that this discussion is healthy. I like having a public discussion, but it seems to me that that the concerns raised about this are, we haven't had this problem, and so I'm really worried about your perception and your members' perception that the health department would do anything that would compromise patient confidentiality at all.
Well, I'd be happy to address that question. What the issue stems from, and we put this in the basis and purpose and the background information, was the Department of Revenue's originally. They have been saying for quite a while, and their rulemaking, their 96 pages of rule that they just implemented, continue to say that they're going to videotape patients with their ID card and their driver's license and their face, and this is going to become part of the Department of Revenue database. Now that is going to be linked up.
Yes.
Every time they make a purchase at a medical marijuana center, they're going to be required in a 12 by 12 space on the dispensary counter to lay down their driver's license, their registry ID card, and the amount of cannabis that they're purchasing, linked up with a video surveillance system and linked up with a point of sale system, which will record the transaction on a text overlay, a video image, of the patient's purchase. Now, the Department of Revenue can say till they're blue in the face, yes, we're only tracking the ID number, but the reality of the fact is that they're tracking the patient's image and their photo ID and their registry card, and all of this information is somehow going into the Department of Revenue's database.
What does that have to do with the health department? I'm looking for what I can do as a Board of Health member.
You can say that you're not going to share any of your information with the Department of Revenue and let their system stand on its own.
Yes.
Your question about whether or not it would be possible for you to hack into our database, I'd really like to understand what the point of that question was.
Well, because I think that, the concern for privacy exists for all of us, and I would suggest that a listserv is one of the easiest things. I mean, the only thing in my limited experience with technology that I've ever been hacked into was different listservs I've been on.
Right. I mean, privacy of somebody that signs up on the Cannabis Therapy Institute's email list is completely different from the privacy of somebody whose constitutional right is protected, whose right to their medicine is protected in the Constitution. Are you Kendra Mulch? Is that your name? Ms. Mulch, I'm sorry, your right to sign up on my mailing list is not protected in the Constitution. Therefore, it has a much lower level of concern for everybody in this room.
That example, the analogy that I was drawing was one more to do with patient confidentiality. So if your membership is so concerned, and I'm trying to understand that I don't think that the Department of Public Health and Environment has done anything to compromise patient confidentiality. So as the Board of Health, what I'm trying to contemplate is what kind of direction that I think would be prudent for this department to take to preserve patient confidentiality. I don't think we've done anything or plan to do anything whatsoever that violates or that would put us at risk for any kind of violation of patient confidentiality. The analogy to your listserv would be, I would think that if people were that concerned, there were other places to place their concern. If they're concerned about their confidentiality and their right to privacy, it would seem to me that it's misdirected when it's coming to the health department. That the concern should be to other entities such as whomever else might have that
Mulch,
information.
the health department is the guardian of the registry as outlined in the Constitution. So where else would we take our concerns to?
I think,
I'm not being clear.
if I can jump in a little bit, I think that's one of the reasons we asked for and had the briefing that we did previously, is to understand who is responsible for what in this, situation. And I think the important thing that Kendra's trying to get at is, first thing is, I have security clearances where I work, and even belonging or being on an email list to something that attributes you to communism, any number of different things, that implication will block me from getting a security clearance, whether actually someone breached my record or not. So I think she's just trying to look at the whole system. And then the Department of Revenue information that you brought up, this entity has no authority over what Department of Revenue is going to do. And they would, if they're going to propose a database or do something on their own, which I don't know if that's with CDPHE or if that's just a Department of Revenue issue, we have no authority.
But Mr. Hyman has said that he is working actively on pursuing this database integration.
But
So,
I think the important
and which
thing
I
is right
pointed out at
now,
the last hearing was, a violation and should go through rulemaking.
I understand, and what I'm saying is, while I understand the concerns, I think that some of this is premature because there is no proposal on the table. There's nothing for us to sit here today and
Well, then
discuss.
what is Mr. Hyman working on?
From what he just told us, unless he is...
I'm referring to what he talked about in the January meeting.
I don't know.
He's here, we can ask him.
Ron?
I'm actually the person working on it.
Pardon me?
I'm the person who's working on it, so if you want, I know the answer.
Why don't you go ahead. Do you mind if Mr. Darby shares the table with you for a minute?
There are three departments who have something to do with this entire process. The Department of Revenue, the Department of Public Health and Environment, and the Department of Public Safety. So what we are discussing at this time is what are the requirements of the Department of Public Health, what are the requirements of the Department of Revenue, and what are the requirements of the Department of Public Safety, and in what ways would we share data.
Can I ask, when you say requirements, are those what you hope to gain by the database, or is that the Constitution?
No, it means what we need to do. What we are prohibited or allowed to do via the Constitution or statute is certainly part of that. But it's mostly what we need to do our jobs. That's what we mean. But when we say requirements, that's what we need. We at the Department of Public Health need to do a certain set of things: issue cards, make changes, so on and so forth, to do our job. So we are talking about what those things are and where there are overlaps, if any. So that's what we're doing, and that's how far it's gone.